Hey, welcome to the Integrate This EdTech podcast. I'm David Berner, and I am joined by Brittany Blackwell, host of the Resilient Teacher podcast.
Yep.
And we're super happy to have you here. You've been running around the conference like we have, and so
Yes.
it's nice to have someone here we can relate to a little bit. It's been fast and furious, I feel like,
Yeah.
the last 2 days. What has your experience been like here since you got in?
I've been to ISTE. This is my third year coming to ISTE, and I love it. I mean, it's so fast paced, but it's a lot of connections and a lot of meeting new people and connecting with old people. And I think that's the biggest part about ISTE is like the connection component. And yeah, I big fan of ISTE.
Okay, and so you said 3 years.
Yeah.
3 for me too.
Yeah.
Jeremy's on like 6, I think, or something. So he's doubled up. But as you've gone around, like I've been following your TikTok, and so if you make sure you follow Brittany's TikTok as well. But what kind of things have stood out to you as you've gone around? I know you've gone to like some demonstration type things. What have you seen so far?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I went to, one of the demonstrations that I went to was the Code AI. They were formerly code.org, and now they're Code AI, and they had this experience space where you kind of go in, and it starts with something very human, which I really liked. It asked, like, who was the student that changed it all? And I think that really is just a really cool component of something that says AI, because it's bringing us back to the human part of teaching. And so it asked us that question, and then after that it kind of asked us a few questions about how we would like do different things within our classrooms to find our digital literacy archetype. And no surprise, I got the maker, which was kind of cool. But it was just a really cool experience because it made me think about how I feel about AI in the classroom and how students use AI. So that was one really, really cool exhibit that I went to.
Okay, and that's a huge topic of conversation right now, right? Is like how teachers are using AI, how students are using AI. Is the use effective? Is it tied to sound pedagogy?
Yeah.
Are we just using technology for technology's sake?
Yeah.
There's a lot of those conversations going on right now. And so as we look at the teachers, there's a ton of teachers here, and thinking about teachers back at districts, like where we're from or any of the states, what type of things are you seeing, referring to the Resilient Teacher podcast?
Yeah.
You focus specifically on teacher burnout. Mm-hmm. Okay, so take us through that first. Like, how do you normally set that up and think about any topic that you bring to the podcast?
I actually have on my website a quiz that teachers can take to actually determine like what do they need to do, what's their roadmap to burnout recovery, because each individual person is different, right? Like you have I was a special educator, so I think of everything as like individualized, but there are like 4 main paths that you can go down. And typically what I've been seeing is like a lot of teachers go down the systemize path. Like they just need systems, they need routines, they need ways to make it their own, and they're often using different people's idea of what's the right thing to do. And so like when I think about AI, I think about that as part of systemization and automation, right? And so teachers can really consider what's the thing that they love about teaching. And we don't want to systemize that. We don't want to delegate that. We want to continue doing that because that's what brings us joy, right? But the things that we hate, everybody has something that they hate doing as a teacher. For me, it was attendance. I hate attendance. I'm never going to remember to do attendance. And so I might automate that. Like how could I automate that? Simple, like just creating an alarm that tells me I need to take my attendance, and then I take the attendance. But something as simple as that is so profound, and it's like one less thing that you have to think about. Teachers are so burned out by decision fatigue. Like every day you're making tons and tons of decisions, and so you think about like when you're in the classroom and a student comes up to you and asks you a question, and you have to think and decide in that moment, how do you react? there's so many things that they do, and so to remove some of those decisions and automate those or systemize those can relieve a lot of burnout for teachers. So that's just one component of like why teachers can burn out and the way that I kind of think about that.
Has there been anything that you've seen or talked about on podcasts? Like Jeremy and I are both tech integration specialists, right?
Yeah.
And we are working with schools, helping teachers understand, whether it's through professional development training or like tutorial videos, that kind of thing. How can someone in our position, like a support position, how can we help teachers from that burnout, right? Kind of take some of the things off their plate to help them out.
Yeah, so like with technology, I think, again, that if we're just thinking about decision fatigue, right? Think about how many technology things that they have to learn and know and use each day. There are just so many. If you think about like attendance maybe tracked in one app, and then you've got your grades in another app, you've got your curriculum in another app, and so it becomes so many things that it's like, where do you go and how do you do it? And it feels a little bit overwhelming. And so anything that can become like, I hate this term, but like a one-stop shop or a hub or a place that they can just do one thing really well, that I think would reduce a lot of the decision fatigue, a lot of the even technology burnout, because I think sometimes teachers, they know that the technology is there, but it's just another step to get to it, that it becomes, okay, well, I'll just do something that I already know how to do, because right now I'm overwhelmed, I can't really think of that. I think at the beginning of the year, too, is like a really great time to, I guess, show the flashy thing that you want teachers to adopt, because if you introduce something in the middle of the year, their brains are already, they're at capacity. And so I think those are the two main things that I would say can help technology integration.
So and you mentioned like systems and where they should stay where they are helpful. Do you think that, and you brought this up, like even just thinking about it as you're talking about it, all the different systems that, like from a tool perspective, so your SIS, right? Your learning management system, all these things, like even just like signing into those, navigating the different platforms, like those are all things that some of us might think of as like, second nature if you're really good with technology, but for some people it might be more cumbersome, like, okay, I've got to move from this to another one and keep processing all this stuff.
Right.
Do you feel like we focus too much on having those for the sake of like simplicity, but they might actually bog down teachers a little bit?
Of having different
Yeah, like having all those different systems where they've got to, so that because they have to manage all of those, do you think that creates a hindrance to like their ability to think clearly or work with kids closely?
I think it could. I think like I mentioned earlier, every teacher, every student, obviously, are different individuals, and so like what might work for me, like as far as like having one place where everything is single sign-on, for instance, is just like is super helpful. For other teachers, it really might be that they compartmentalize in that way, where they are like, okay, this tool does this one specific thing and I only need to know this. That might help teachers who are not really good at technology. Maybe that is supportive of them. But I would think for me personally, it would support me to have different features within one tool to be able to do.
Yeah, like the one-stop shop, so that you can go in there and like, I can do all my things here.
Yes.
And that takes a little bit of sense of having to manage all that off of their plate.
Yeah, and I think that like the management part of it too is like you only have to know this one platform, and so the interface is going to be more than likely the same. Like as you go into different apps and different things like that, you don't realize it, but each app it might have a waffle or it might have a hamburger, and like the idea between, well, where is the waffle? Oh, it doesn't have a waffle, it has a hamburger, you know. Or like just knowing where certain features live within an app. Like I'm thinking about like this, I had 2 different curricula that I had to use, that our district purchased, and I had to go onto the platform, and they looked completely different. Like where was the, you know, where were the worksheets, or where were the assessments? They weren't the same on each platform, and so I think for some teachers that could be overwhelming. I'm thinking like special educators and those who have to go into different things like that. So yeah, I think it could be.
Okay, so and then like thinking about your podcast, and just your work in general, the things that you're doing and around teacher resilience, burnout, is there like a certain number of tips or things you're like, these are things that I could give you as a teacher like today, and this would help you immensely? Like just think of these 3 things or one thing, whatever you want to, however many numbers you want to do,
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that I tell any teacher who's burned out is to really look at the things that are giving you energy and the things that are taking your energy. There are always going to be things, whether you love them or not. You may love teaching, but you can still become burned out. And that's because you are having more energy taken than the energy you're putting in. So for some people, the things that bring them energy are creating resources. That is not me. Do not give me creating resources, but for some people it does. And so putting everything into a bubble and then writing those things down. What are the tasks that you have to do as a teacher every day? And then draw an arrow out for those that are taking your energy and draw an arrow in for those that are giving you energy. And then look at those, like how many items are there on that? That's a lot of items. And more than likely you have more energy going out than energy going in. How can you add more of the energy in so that it is a little bit more balanced? More than likely, and I tell this to people all the time, you're not going to have an equal flow. It's just, it's not realistic to think you're gonna have work-life balance. It's more like work-life alignment. How many of those things can you get that are coming into you, so that you're able to give that out?
Yeah, and I think even just as you're talking about that, even that exercise of doing that is super helpful, because you probably don't really realize, like, you might have a massive imbalance. Like, as you
Yeah.
said, you have a bunch of arrows going out,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize how many arrows are going out, and you look
Right.
at those that are coming in, and it's like, you know, so you
Right.
have this like,
And teachers are are so like in service of students that they will continue to give and to give and to give. And so their principal may ask them, hey, can you run this club? Or hey, can you do this other thing? And it's taking a lot of energy out that they're not even recognizing is impacting how they're showing up in the classroom. And so sometimes it's important to see, okay, that is something that's taking my energy away, and I might need to step away from that because that's impacting how I show up in my classroom and how I'm serving my students. And that's the thing that really gives me energy. And so just to be aware of those things is just a huge component of your first step to burnout recovery.
yeah. And we just to connect this, we had a guest on earlier too, Thomas Riddle, who said something. He was like, if you can't do that well, if you're not also taking care of yourself, right? So if you're like, if you have that massive imbalance, it's going to actually impact your teaching, even though that might not be you're not intending to have that happen.
Right.
It just naturally is going to happen because of the output that you're giving, right?
Right.
Because you are putting students first, but it might not work out so well if you don't take care of yourself first, right? So
Absolutely.
so one last question for you here. How can people see your work, reach you? Anything that you have that's coming up that you want to plug and just talk about, like people should check out,
Yeah.
socials, all those things.
Yeah, so I am on social media. I'm Teaching Mind, Body, and Soul on Instagram and at Miss Princess Teach on TikTok. I never changed my name on TikTok, and so eventually I will I will change that, and it will just be my name. That will be much easier to find. But I have a website that's probably the best and easiest place because it will never change. Teachingmindbodyandsoul.com, and the podcast is on there. I also stream on all major podcasting platforms, the Resilient Teacher podcast, and yeah. That's pretty much where you can find me. If you are a burned out teacher, there's hope. You don't have to hate teaching anymore. You can live your best life inside and outside of the classroom. And so the best way to take that first step is to do that exercise we talked about just a few minutes ago. Or you can go to teachingmindbodyandsoul.com/quiz, and you can find your unique roadmap to burnout recovery.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we link everything in the show notes so you can click on those and check those out.
Yep.
So Brittany, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Check out the Integrate This podcast on all platforms and on YouTube.